Hello everyone, welcome to the GeoEcologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand and you have been watching my videos on models, theories and laws in human geography and various other aspects of geography on my channel, The GeoEcologist. So if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And in today's session, we are going to learn about a very interesting theory that's called central place theory. Now, this central place theory is one of the very important aspects in locational analysis in geography or locational theories in geography. Remember, we have already learned about von Thunen's model, we have already learned about Weber's industrial location theory. So, in this series of these locational theory or locational analysis in geography, this is one of the most important theories that talks about centrality of places. So what is this centrality of places? What is central function? What is threshold? And several other concepts let's learn in today's session. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also do share the videos with others as well. So now let's discuss about central place theory. Now there are three words here. One is called central, one is the place and one is the theory. Itself tells us about that it is about centrality of a place, a central function of a place. So let's discuss this theory, that what is the importance of this central place theory and what does it tell us about the hierarchy of settlements, how the bigger settlements and smaller settlements are linked together. Right? So, the German economist, and also we study him as geographer, is Walter Christaller. And remember, this theory was given by Walter Christaller in 1933. Right? So, Central Places in Southern Germany is the name of his book in which this theory was discussed. So, Central Places in Southern Germany basically pertain to those particular industrial locations or city centers which served as the places of the market. Right? And they were bigger cities or they were bigger centers than their adjoining places. So, it is a normative and deductive theory and also deterministic theory that we say. Now, remember, earlier we have already learnt about the von Thunen's model as well as Weber's model, and there also we discussed about certain assumptions about these normative, deductive and also this particular deterministic theory. So, basic idea behind this normative, deductive and deterministic is what? Remember, norm is the word, that is establishment of a law or deriving from a standard. That's where normativeness comes to the picture. Then deduction is basically type of a reasoning from general to particular, coming to a point conclusion. Right? So it's basically talking about generalization, right? And then third is the deterministic part of it. It means there are certain things that determine the effect. It means cause and effect relationship, functional relationship. X is the function of Y relationship, right? So this is where determinism comes to the picture. So if you observe this statement here, this statement tells you about the gist of this theory, that is urban hierarchy is based on functions available in a city. Now look here, urban hierarchy is what? Is based on the functions available in a city. Now hierarchy thing is very important in terms of scale in geography. From a small village to the large city, to the mega city. You see there are different steps, layers, right? So what you see, scaling is there under this concept of different urban places. There is a hierarchy, there is a centrality, right? And that's where functions are the pivot. It means the cause behind this hierarchy, the deterministic factor behind this hierarchy is what? The functions of that city. So bigger city, diversity of function. Smaller city, very few functions, isn't it? Or smaller places, fewer functions. That is what the whole idea behind this central place theory. So the primary purpose of this settlement or market town, according to this theory, CPT in short we can say, central place theory, is provision of goods and services for the surrounding market area. So according to this theory, what is the primary purpose of existence of a market town, a city center? To provide goods and services to its surrounding area, to the hinterland. That is what we say as service area, right? So such towns are centrally located and may be called as central places. Now remember, central places are not just necessarily bigger towns. They could be smaller towns, but they could be central places for their surrounding. So for every level you have a surrounding. That is what is important here to understand. So if you observe this urban hierarchy in this diagram, what is here? These red dots are very few, only one or two in this given diagram. That is city with a higher order place. So higher order place has variety of functions. but they are very less in number. So if you observe India, which are the biggest cities in India and how many are them? Remember the 4 metropolitan cities in the traditional examples that we used to give, Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai and Mumbai. Still they are the biggest cities in India. No other city is as big as Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata. Right? So that is what we say as the higher order places. They have diversity of functions, variety of goods and services, but they will not be greater in number. They will be very few in number. The next one in the order you see, town. That is smaller than these bigger ones, bigger cities are the towns, which are far larger in number, but still they are in the intermediate positions, the meso level in the scale here, isn't it? So towns are more than what is these cities, but definitely they also have lots of functions, but not as many functions as a city would have. Then we have villages or hamlets that we say. So this is something which is urban hierarchy if you observe, from greater to smaller or smaller to greater as the way you want to look at it, right? So this is a nesting structure, or we say nest of hexagon, which represents this particular urban hierarchy, which was discussed in this particular central place theory itself, right? So higher order places are more widely distributed and fewer in number than lower order places. This is one statement to remember as the basic premise of central place theory. So now let's understand the objectives of this central place theory, that why this theory was needed, what was its main objective or aim. So CPT, that is central place theory, has one main aim or objective, what we say, that is to explain the rationale behind distribution 1, pattern 2, size 3, number of cities and towns the 4. So these 4 things, how do you explain distribution, pattern, size and number of city and towns on the basis of any particular theory? So this theory attempts to actually provide us a rationale that why a particular distribution in a particular region is there. What are the reasons behind it, right? Behind this particular pattern or size or number of cities or distribution in this space, right? That is the first thing. Then it also attempts to provide a framework. Now remember why a framework is needed, because a framework always gives us scope for analysis and also lets us know the scope of that particular subject. So this gives us a framework by which these areas can be studied both for historical reasons like historical evolution of towns and cities, and also for locational patterns of these areas in today's world. That's why central place theory is still as important, right? So it is concerned with the way of settlements have evolved and spaced out. Then it seeks to discover an order in the size and spacing of settlement. Now this is very interesting, that it tries to seek an order, tries to find that is there any order existing between larger cities and the smaller cities and the further smaller cities or villages? Is there any linkages between them? So this theory tries to emphasize on the linkages based on functions. So functional relationship between them, right? So settlement size and positions in hierarchy, their functional relationship, right? And it seeks to find spacing of settlement, and also it talks about that whether spacing of settlement is arbitrary in nature. Arbitrary is basically haphazard without any particular logic, and or it has certain logical justification that could be found. This theory tries to find that particular logic in the order, in size and spacing of settlement. And finally, it is a theoretical account of size and distribution of settlements within an urban system. So primarily, in urban geography or urban settlement system, central place theory occupies the pivot role, right? That's important. So basically what we see here is a functional theory. So this is a functional theory where functions dominate. They are the causative factors. They are the deterministic factors for explaining these size, order, pattern, distribution, numbers of cities and towns. So what are the basic principles of central place theory now? One is the principle of centrality, which we are talking. What is the centrality? Centrality is basically the central function which is present in a particular settlement. For example, if you go to a village, which is its central place, mostly in a village, either a temple or a mosque or a church or a chopal or a panchayat ghar would be its central place, from where the entire function of the village would be actually regulated. Right? Same for the small town. What is there? If you observe, the collectorate or that particular district headquarter would be the central place, or that particular big area of the city where you have all the administrative buildings of importance, or the market center, that would occupy a particular central place. So centrality is a function based attribute. That's important to understand. Then it is not necessary that core or focal point has to be geometric center of the settlement. Now remember, many people think that if this is a central place, it has to be geometrically in the center of that area. No, remember, if this is the settlement, it looks like on space, a central place can be here as well, in the center as well, in this corner as well, or here in the boundary as well. Why? Because this is not about geometrically placing that particular settlement. Rather, it is about its importance, which is here, which gives city its shape and its function. That's the most important point, that the functions are central in this place rather than geometry. So remember that point. And second is principle of hierarchy. Remember, state, district, tehsil, as we see, this is multi-level planning system in India. That can be understood as what is the hierarchy of central places in India. So that is what is principle of hierarchy, which is the core building block of this theory. Then we have certain more principles like principle of complementary area. Now the word itself is complementary area, the area that complements that central or focal point, right? So area for which central place is the focal point. Right? So if this is a central place, what is this complementary area? This area which is served by the services from the central place, that is its complementary area. So if you observe here in this diagram also, this is the marketplace, right? And then alongside, all side along it is its complementary area. Then the next important point here is the principle of threshold population. The word threshold is important here. What is this threshold? Threshold is that particular line above which and below which situation changes. It's like what we say in Hindi, chaukhut, or we say dahliz, that particular line crossing which you change the situation, right? So threshold is that particular value. So here in terms of population it is understood. What is that threshold value? Which is important for a particular function to be there in that particular place. It means it's the minimum number of people. Remember, if you are going to open a business, if you are going to open a shop for that matter, you would have to have a particular number of people supporting your business as customers. Otherwise, your business will not be there, right? So that is the threshold value. Maybe 100 or 200 people per day, if they don't come to your shop, your business will flop. Right? That is what the threshold value is. So if you observe, this is the market and there has to be a threshold population alongside it. This is what we say is threshold here. In this diagram you can see. And principle of the range of goods. Now this is also very important, that if you have a particular business in the city center, what is its range? What is its range for the services? How far are people willing to come from to avail that service? For example, if you observe in Indian context, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi is still the most famous medical science center in entire India, and people from all the corners of the country still travel to New Delhi to get themselves the best treatment in AIIMS. In All India Institute of Medical Sciences. It means the medical services have greater range, isn't it? That is what is the range of goods or services that we say, right? So for example, Supreme Court in India. Supreme Court is the only Supreme Court in India. So anything pertaining to the matters of Supreme Court, people have to come to Supreme Court from all the places, all the corners of India, isn't it? So it's a very important function. That makes it, what is it, Supreme Court, the centrality of Supreme Court, right? That's where the principle of a range of goods and services is. So this is the example just to understand that if you have a very unique business, it means your range will be very high. For example, if we take New Delhi as a city, remember Chandni Chowk or Purani Delhi area is very famous for cuisines, for Mughlai, right? So if you want to eat that particular cuisine or Mughlai, you have to go to Chandni Chowk area, and people who travel across Delhi, who visit Delhi, definitely go to Chandni Chowk and Lal Killa to see old Delhi situation. That's what is the function which is having a greater range than any other function, because other function may also be available in other cities or smaller hierarchy towns. But what is not available there is the Parathe Wali Gali of Chandni Chowk. So one of the examples you can find in your area, that what is that unique function. For example, there could be a medical store which only supplies that particular drug that you need for your disease control. So you will travel as many kilometers only to get that medicine from that shop. That is what is the range of goods and services. So how does it vary? It varies on the basis of the uniqueness of goods and service that you provide. That is important here. So principle of range and good. So you can see this diagram here. So remember, if the good is to be produced and it is to continue in production, range has to be greater than threshold. You cannot sustain just with your business around the people around your area. Right? For business to sustain for a longer time, for you to keep producing that service and good in that area, you need to increase your range, right? Threshold will only sustain your shop, your business. But if you have a greater range, it will continue, it will bloom, it will develop. These are the building blocks of central place theory. So again, like other theories like von Thunen and Weber, here also we will find certain assumptions like an isotropic plane, which is a flat surface, almost equivalent in every direction, in every system, right? In everything. That is what you can see here. Population is evenly distributed in the plane. Settlement distribution is uniform. Then you have similar purchasing power of people in all the entire area. Right? Same taste, same demand, same amount of goods and services availability. Then no excess profit. There is a perfect competition. It's like everybody has same amount of money to purchase. Right? That's very interesting. And then there is a single means of transport, and transport cost rises proportionately with distance. Same like we studied in also Weber as well as von Thunen's model. Very similar, like, so these locational theories have this thread which is very common of assumptions. And also the concept of economic man. Remember, the only motivation for people here is to generate maximum profit. Now this model also tries to fit in itself the capitalism mode of production, if you can see that, right? So central place hierarchy acts as a closed system. It is not affected from outside. It is a closed system with one center, one city market and its periphery where you have threshold and range of goods, and people are coming to the center to buy and sell their goods, to avail the services, and city and its hinterland or periphery is what is important here. So these are the principles and assumptions that we see. So now let's look into this particular circular complementary area concept that initially Christaller drew. So what happened? Initially, Christaller thought about the concept of these central places in a circular shape. So what happened? Because of the maximum area coverage within the minimum circumference, this circular shape was first adopted. But what was the problem with this circular shape in the settlement? Remember, if you have a center and you have a periphery like this, and then you have other centers alongside, what happens? One center is giving the service to all these areas, other is giving to all these areas, but some areas like these dark areas, if you see in this image, are now still unserved between these circular settlements, that is central places. So this was a concern, and for this later modification was done by Christaller into this hexagonal shape of settlement as an ideal settlement. So ideal settlement would be hexagonal shape where they would completely link themselves with each other. No unserved area will be left, right? Because now this point will serve across all these areas, all the entire hexagon. This will serve across here. So no unserved area between them will be left. So later on, this was further done into this hexagon mode of settlement planning. And what you observe here in the central place theory model is the nesting of the pattern of hierarchy. Remember earlier also we learned about this nesting model. So this is this nesting where you have one central place and there is a nest of hexagon created alongside it. Right from the bigger center to the smaller center to the further smaller center, the entire nest of hexagon from the larger order centers to the lower order centers, only on the basis of their central functions, right? That's important. So according to this particular theory, Christaller identified fixed relationship between two connecting levels of hierarchy. Now remember, if this is hierarchy level 1 and this is hierarchy level 2, so between 1 and 2, remember, he fixed a relationship with a value called K value. Now, what is this K value? This is application of quantitative technique to the spatial analysis or locational analysis that we say. This K value is an index of number. And what does it represent? K indicates the number of complementary areas basically that is served by the higher order settlement to its lower order settlement. So, K indicates the number of complementary areas of lower order center served by the next higher order center. It means that it includes first itself, it serves itself, and how many lower order centers can it serve? That is its K value. For example, there is a town town T, then it may serve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is according to hexagon if you observe, right? At max. So 6 functions and 1 it serves itself. That is what it is, the maximum possibility. Now, according to this K value, he further divided the ideal settlement patterns for different purposes. So if you observe here, the first is the principle of K3. We also say K3 principle of urban structure or urban pattern. In those areas where buying and selling is most important, only for those areas, the urban structure would emerge in such a way where K3 principle will be there. So what is this K3 principle? It's only on the basis of marketing. That's where buying and selling happens. So for ideal marketing scenario, a settlement should be following K3 principle. What is this K3 principle? Look here. One bigger center is actually serving the 6 smaller centers in the hierarchy, right? So what is happening? 1/3 in every situation it is serving, right? And that's where the formula is. 1 is for its own self, that is service it is giving to itself, and 1/3 that is divided for every other lower order. So formula goes like 6 into 1/3, because this is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 6 times. So 6 lower order centers, 1/3 service will be given in terms of the best marketing, right? Best buying and selling facility, and 1 will be given to itself. So that is what it gets to be, 2 plus 1, that is 3 value. So basically what is here is the K3 principle talking that if you want to have an ideal marketing principle based settlement, the ideal system is K3. So one bigger order should give service to the next 6 in the line, that is in the hexagon, and 1/3 service each will be divided and 1 to itself. So 6 into 1/3 is 2 and 1 to itself, that is total 3. Then K4 is the next principle. This is for those areas where primary aim is not buying and selling. Primary aim is transport cost improvement, transportation facility to be efficient. So if there is a city area or a settlement area which needs to be in ideal state thought about in terms of planning, the transportation is the prime thing which should be planned, and it should be planned according to K4 principle, where 1 is its own transport service that city provides, and then it also provides the services to these next lower order settlements in this particular way, whereas 1/2 is served by 1, the other half is served by the other one, right? And that's how it completes the 1 for this particular urban center, right? So according to transport efficacy, or you want effectiveness of transport, you should follow this particular formula of K4. That is half to 6 and 1 to itself. So 6 into 1/2 is 3 and 1 to itself, its own transport facility that city provides, is total of 4. That is an ideal state for K4 for the basis of transport efficiency. And then the principle of K7 is similarly for administration, which is for a centralized administration, the settlement pattern in ideal state should follow K7 principle. So what is this K7 principle? You look at these larger order settlement, they are there, right? And 6 other smaller settlements are there within their service area, their central administrative area. So it is serving 1 for each and 1 for itself. So 6 plus 1, that is total of 7 as an ideal state of administration. So if you want a administration to be done in efficient manner, the K7 principle is to be followed. So remember, K3, K4, K7 is basically what? It's that value of the services that is to be provided as central functions for these particular larger order settlement to the lower order settlement. So K3 is for market, then K4 is for the efficient transport, and K7 for efficient administration. But these are all ideal scenarios. Does it really happen in real-time world? Does settlement evolve like this in ideal state? That's the criticism of CPT, right? So criticism of CPT is what? It's a normative theory like other theories, von Thunen and Weber. Assumptions never depict the direct reality, right? Isotropic surface is rarely found, such a flat surface with everything equally placed, right? And always behavior of consumer and seller is not rational, right? Rational behavior is something which is very irrational itself, isn't it? And humans are not always an optimizer, rather sometimes they're also satisfier. Normally, a human beings get satisfied in the things that is available around themselves. They would not necessarily travel for everything they want want in today's world. And many things have changed with technology. Everything is now at doorstep today. Right? People don't travel to other cities or other central places for buying a particular good or service. Now goods and services are coming home. So the entire central place theory has changed now in today's world, isn't it? That's where criticism comes in. So the suitability of theory is a question, primarily in agricultural economy, in agrarian societies, which are now even developing in today's world. Some of the African countries, maybe some of the third world countries, where still pastoral agrarian economy is there. There is only one service center, one city center. There this theory can still be applicable. So in India as well, if you observe, this is applicable in parts. Like how, if you observe, we have a hierarchy in urban settlements, in administrative setup, as we can say, national capital, state capital, district headquarters, tehsil, then you have block, gram panchayat and villages. So that is the ideal situation, if you can say, not ideal case 7, but at least case 6. Till case 6 level we are there in administration. So almost very ideally fitting is this CPT in Indian context in one principle, that is case 7 principle, because at least case 6 is there. So it's close to reality, that we can say. But other things are not as close, like K3 and K4 principle of marketing and transport efficiency. That is one question that is to be put. So what you see as a conclusion here, it's basically a great theory in overall understanding of the settlement hierarchy, the functions, their relationships, their size, their distribution over the space. But the problem is, it's a very poor approximation of the reality that we say. Right? In reality, settlement does not behave in hexagonal ring. The functions does not behave K3, K4, K7 principle wise. That is where the criticism for central place theory lies in. So now, when we have learnt in details about the central place theory, in the sessions to come, we'll be talking about Lossian model and how the central place theory was modified in Lossian model. So don't go anywhere, keep watching, stay tuned, stay safe, all the best wishes.